And this is crazy because this is an epidemic in America. Depression, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, epilepsy. There's a lot of things that are damaging the brain. And this is why we call it the gut brain or the enteric brain. You figure the brain has cells called nerves. And in fact, there's 70 trillion cells in this whole body. Now, each one of these cells, okay, the majority of them, have these little powerhouses called mitochondria. And they allow the cell to regenerate. So when we're adjusting you, we're restoring that brain to body communication. We're creating inflammation so the body can regenerate. The problem is, if these little powerhouses don't work, the cells can't regenerate. So why is the IQ of most countries starting to decline? When since the 30s and 40s, we've seen it rise 3 to 4 to 5%, okay, or points every year. And now it's starting to decline. So knowledge has been expanding exponential, but we're doing something in the last generation that's causing their brains to be destroyed. And why? Neurotransmitters are produced in the gut. But mainly, when you look at this, the brain functions like a battery, and it gets its charge from the position and motion of the vertebrae. So when you have poor position, you have poor motion, and that gets poor stimulation to the brain. Now, the brain creates its own food called cerebral spinal fluid, and it burns 90% of the body's oxygen, 30% of the body's calories. So let's say that you eat fast food or fats that aren't healthy. Well, what happens is the brain doesn't have the raw materials, so it puts you in a stress state. And luckily, there's only 3 stressors. There's physical stress, chemical stress, and emotional stress. But the challenge is everything happens under those stressors. And when you look at this, to have a healthy brain, you have to have position and motion because these are like a battery. So if you have loss of curve or a deviation, that means you have abnormal stimulation to the brain. This is why every time anyone's getting adjusted, we give you cross-crawl exercises. The only people we don't give cross-crawl exercises is the kids. Do you want to know why? What do you guys do in between your adjustments? You play. If I could tell adults to go play between their adjustments, I wouldn't give them the exercises. Yeah, playing is the best thing because you're bending, turning, twisting, moving. And playing gets your brain working good. Okay, but adults, we have to train a little bit slower. I know, isn't that cool? Kids are already naturally smart. Okay, now breathing. When you're talking about breathing, the little 1 kilo brain burns 90% of the body's oxygen. So we teach diaphragmatic breathing so that brain can get oxygen. But also that diaphragmatic breathing is moving all of these organs down here because every one of these organs below that diaphragm has a fluid called lymph. And if you're not moving this, then this can have stagnation. And this is why if you're feeding this with unhealthy fats, if you're feeding it with medications, if you have poor sleep, if you're not breathing correctly, this structure can't work. And this is called the gut brain or enteric brain. And the things that damage that gut are going to be the toxic fats, medications, and environmental poisons. So it can't be that simple, can it? That all we have to do is look at physical stressors, get oxygen, get the right nutrients, and then your body can regenerate? Absolutely. But also, we're looking at symmetrical movements because everyone's heard of people who've had a stroke. You know, they have lose speech or lose part of their limbs or the control of them, and then they get it back. They get it back because the brain has a brilliant ability called neurogenesis, where it can regenerate neurons. It also has an ability to generate blood vessels. That's called angiogenesis. So the brain can regenerate even from trauma. And so when we work on traumatic brain injury patients where they literally had problems, you restore the position, you restore the nutrients, you allow this to function. But the big reason that we're having an epidemic in Alzheimer's, dementia, anxiety, stress, autism, is when you look at our healthcare system, if your blood pressure goes up, what's broken? Is anything broken in the body? Well, if you have that brain burns 90% of the body's oxygen, and your doctor gives you a drug to lower blood pressure, does that help oxygen in the brain or slow it down? And the way I'll explain it to people, if you're slowing down the heart, does that help oxygen or slow it down? I know. See, it makes it easy when I say it like that. Well, if you're taking a drug and your doctor is smarter than your physiology, he's not going to look at why your body is responding with a high blood pressure. He's not going to check the health of the blood like we do. He's not going to ask you if you slept good. He's not going to ask you if you're pooping good. He's just going to give you a drug to lower it. So does that mean that people that are taking blood pressure drugs are putting their brain under stress? Yes or yes? If cholesterol goes up, and there's only cholesterol, some people say good and bad, but this is the LDL, or low density lipoprotein, is used for tissue repair. So if you have tissue damage, if you have a loss occur, if you're in a stress state, blood pressure, cholesterol, and blood sugar goes up. If you have anxiety, it's not from lack of medication. It has to do with your body in a stress state. So we're in a sick society that gets a symptom and gives you a drug. That's leading to altered nutrients to the brain, altered structure, and it makes the doctors ignore the real problem. This is why you could have burping for 10 years, blood pressure, anxiety, all of this stuff. Unless you have a doctor that is a detective that looks for the cause, your body won't get better. So now, let's say that you have Alzheimer's or dementia or beginning, or you're starting to forget names of things. Well, what we have to do is correct it. First, we change the position of motion, look at the structure. And that's why we say physical stressors. Once you've identified problems, get somebody to correct it. Next, breathing, diaphragmatic breathing, 10 breaths every hour. This will help oxygen in the brain, and it's going to move all the organ tissues. Healthy fats, that means a man make it, you don't need it. So if you're going to a restaurant, particularly around here, make sure they're not using MSG. Make sure they're using healthy fats, no seed oils, no cottonseed oil, canola oil, soy oils. So healthy saturated fats. Correct sleep. That means if you're getting more than 9 hours of sleep a night, you're going to have damage to the brain. If you're getting less than 5 hours of sleep, you're going to have damage to the body. So optimal function is 6.5 to 7.5 hours of deep sleep. And then you need a healthy gut function. If you have 2 to 3 healthy bowel movements a day, it means you're working good. So this is why we're going to have a class on fermenting vegetables next week. Okay, so you can get healthy bacteria in the gut and symmetrical movements. In order to see if your brain is functioning correctly, leave your purse in the car or have somebody carry it and just see how you're walking. When you're walking, is one arm going higher than the other? Or are you being symmetrical? So next time you're going to a store, okay, like let's say you're going to Lotus, park far in the parking lot and just see if you're casually moving your arms the same. And if they're not, then move them the same. So that gets symmetrical stimulus. And luckily, you're tall enough to where you can swing your legs in a chair. That's okay. My sweetheart's is safe. Yeah, don't you dare say she's 4'11". And so it can't be that simple, but it is. If you're taking a medication, find out why you're taking it. Okay, and get a doctor who's going to fix the problem, because nobody is suffering from not enough medications. Okay, nobody. So the body is responding correctly based on its perception of stress. So you fix the stress, you restore the blood supply and nerve supply, get symmetrical stimulus, and know without a doubt, man, the gut-brain connection. So you need to deal with the stress, nutrient-rich food, healthy fats, no toxins, no medication. Is that no medication? Well, if you've had an organ transplant, you're going to have to take some. If you've had your thyroid removed, you're going to have to take some. But before you have an organ transplant and a thyroid removed, your body was unhealthy. So we've got to fix it. Does that make sense? And that's why we measure the blood, we measure autonomic nervous system, we measure everything before and after. Now, any questions? Yes, ma'am.
So, like, all the, like, not the disease, but all the, see,
Yeah.
the basic.
When you're looking at symptoms, every symptom, okay, and this is the key. So what you just asked is when you're presented with symptoms, we should look for the problem. That's because now doctors are not taught critical thinking. They have a book. And if your blood pressure is high, you get this. If your cholesterol is high, you get this. Fasting blood glucose, it's dangerous. We should do this. We should check your, give you a colonoscopy every year or breast exam. Or, I mean, really, are they asking the questions? The quality of your life depends on the quality of questions. Are you getting 2 to 3 healthy bowel movements a day? Are you waking up with energy? Do you have a positive mental attitude? Is your skin healthy? Is your hair healthy? You know, I mean, when you're looking at how your sleep patterns are, how your bowel movements are, and if you have energy, then your body probably is functioning fairly well. Okay, if you're taking your blood pressure at home, make sure you're deep breathing for 15 minutes. And then you're going to get an accurate read, but know that this goes up and down all day long. So none of these are the clues that your body is missing medication. They're all your body is under stress. Does that make sense? Because and when I talk before a chiropractic or neurologist or medical doctors group, I say, look, I'll give everyone in here $100. Okay, if they can come up with the disease, that's not a stress response. And somebody will say malaria. Okay, good. 100 people go through the swamp. They all get bitten by mosquitoes containing malaria. Do they all get malaria? No. So it's not the germ that causes it or the bug that introduces it. It has to do with that person's perception of the environment or their health, their immune system, which is mythical because there is no system called the immune system. But every aspect of your body is going to respond correctly to the environment based on your perception. And it's not based on the toxin. It's based on your perception. It's like, think of the witch doctor. Okay, if I build a doll and I stab it with a pen, and I say yes, this is going to cause you to have bowel disorders or something. If you believe it, you'll develop the bowel disorders. If you believe you're going to be healthy, that's one of the starts to get healthy. If you believe that it runs in your family, or that everybody has bowel disorders, or that your uncle is, you've been lied to and say you have familiar hypercholesterolemia, your whole family just got here by random luck, and you all should be dead because your cholesterol's too high. No, none of that's true. Okay, your body is responding correctly based on the stress, or there's some other issue, but it requires a doctor to be a detective. Does that make sense? Any other questions? Kapung krap, sawadi, sawadi krap.